Hello everyone, this is Tutu Mora with the Y, bringing you new tools to stay feeling well in your body, mind, and spirit. So today, we're going to be focusing on the hips, opening up the hip flexors, because when we've been sitting all day, it can really take a toll on how flexible we feel. And we can notice that when we get up to move around or when we start walking, it can feel like a little bit stiff and creaky, which then can also sort of cascade to the back or cascade to the knees and the ankles. So really important to keep that space open, which we're gonna do and help with today. So what you're gonna need a soft surface. So I'd recommend a yoga mat and perhaps a block as well if you've got a yoga block. Now, if you don't have a yoga block, I would just recommend bringing a towel. You might need some extra padding underneath your knees. So the only other thing that I'd recommend is that you be near a wall. So what we're doing, we're gonna be sort of involving a little bit of balance. So it can be helpful to have a wall nearby just to steady yourself should you need it. Other than that, we shouldn't need any props, so I'll go ahead and join you on the mat near the wall or however you have set yourself up. So, what we're gonna do here is start with a roll down. So actually, let's bring ourselves back over here. Now what a roll down looks like is you're just gonna wanna stand feet hip distance apart. Now it's not as important to keep your feet as parallel as they can be. That's always best, but I think for now, just wherever your feet fall naturally, so you don't force anything, but as parallel as feels comfortable. And we're just going to articulate down into a roll down. So starting with the chin, just tucking that chin, articulating down the spine, however much feels comfortable. So find the range that feels good for you. So stop it if you feel any tension or tightness. If you make it all the way down to the floor, that's great. If you don't, that's also fine. All this is doing is helping to give you sort of an indication of how your spine is able to move, how mobile and articulate your hips might be today in this moment. So let's do a couple more. I'll just show you what this looks like from the side. You're gonna, again, just tuck your chin, articulate down, and almost like diving out of your hips here. And bringing yourself down however much feels comfortable. So again, if you make it down to the floor, down to your toes, that's great. And if you don't, that is also fine. So we'll turn back to the front. Let's all take this one more time, of course, remembering to breathe. And just allowing yourself to check in with your body, just noticing where you're storing any tightness or tension. And you might notice that you're able to move a little bit easier on that last one once you have warmed up a little bit. Okay, so now we'll go over to our spot over by the wall. So, if you know that you want a little bit extra padding for your knees, you're welcome to get that. So, we're gonna start with one leg in a right angle here. This is the side that you may want to have that yoga block or towel or a little extra padding if you don't have a surface that's soft enough for you. So please make sure to set up your environment so that you are comfortable. So if you lose your balance, that's what the wall is here for. And what you're gonna do, keeping this foot nice and flat, so seeing if you can keep an equal pressure on the inside and the outside of the foot here, and you don't want the knee to come too far forward. So a good sort of idea is to keep your knee behind your toes. Now for this side, this is the area that we're gonna wanna stretch out, is that hip flexor, maybe a little bit of that quad. So to start, let's find our posture here. So you might notice as you find your posture, that's already a little bit of a stretch here, and that's exactly why we're doing this. So finding that straight spine, you don't want to have too much of an arch in that back. And you also don't want to have that tailbone too curved in. So you don't want your tail between your legs, so to speak. So you want that nice neutral spine, throat behind the heart, shoulders down and away from the ears. And what we're going to do is you're just going to slightly, as if you're going to push that quad and hip flexor forward and up. So just bringing that space into a little bit of a stretch, and you'll move forward slightly with that, but not super a lot. So finding that initial stretch. And then while keeping your posture, you can move that forward so you find an even deeper stretch here. And then you'll come back to the center. So let's do that a couple times here. Finding that sensation of slightly pushing that quad and hip flexor forward and up. And once you've found that sensation, that might already feel like a stretch, or you can start to slightly move it forward here. Now, as you come forward, you don't want to move your whole body forward. You just want to take a tiny movement of that pelvis to deepen that stretch. So let's do that a couple more times here at your own pace, just finding what that feels like in your body. And then if you'd like to deepen that stretch once you've found it, you can bring that arm all the way, same side, arm all the way overhead, and lift using that back of the armpit, lifting that arm towards the ceiling as you lean in. So letting that quad and hip flexor move slightly forward, ever so slightly, as you lift up that arm on the same side. And then you can bring it all back, arm down. And let's do that 2 more times. Remembering to keep that posture. Last time. But of course you can do this however many times feels good for you and your body today. Little lift up through that back of the armpit on that side. And then bringing it all down. So now I would recommend that you get up and take a couple steps around the room. So noticing how it feels to walk around after you have stretched out one side. And it should feel pretty drastic. So let's go ahead and do the other side. So the side you just stretched, that leg will be bent. And find that right angle. Find that equal inside-outside pressure of the foot. So you can move that towel or that extra padding under the bent knee if you need it. And let's go ahead and find your posture. So find that neutral spine, find your soft rib cage, and your throat slightly behind your heart. And now let's tune into that feeling of just moving that quad and the hip flexor as if you're just reaching the muscles slightly forward and up. And you might notice that the one side might be tighter than the other, which is totally normal. So tuning into what degree of stretch feels good for you and your body right now. And if you find that you want to deepen that stretch, find that sensation of the quad and the hip flexor reaching forward and up. And then you can take that slightly forward, leading with your pelvis. So keeping the rest of your posture in alignment. So we'll take that a couple more times here, and then we'll deepen it by adding in the arm. And of course, remembering to breathe. If you lose your balance, that's why you've got the wall. And so now coming back to neutral, let's add in the arm here. So find that sense of reaching forward and up through the quad and the hip flexor. And if you want to deepen that, moving that forward, reaching forward first with your pelvis so that the rest of your posture can follow in alignment. And then we'll bring that arm up, reaching up through the back of the armpit so the fingertips move towards the ceiling as you deepen that stretch. And then bringing yourself back, bringing that arm back down, and we'll take that a couple more times. Again, just listening to your body, seeing what feels good for you. And one more time. So here you can go ahead and rest that other knee down on the floor, and let's just take a little child's pose here. So reaching those hands forward if that feels good, opening the knees to deepen that stretch. And then let's go ahead and finish the same way that we started. So, finding a place to stand up, we're gonna finish with a roll down. So finding your feet, equal pressure on the insides and the outsides, as parallel as possible. And going ahead and just tucking the chin, slight bend through the knees, articulating down. Stacking all the way back up. Now you can do that again or as many times as feels good for you, but hopefully it feels a little bit looser, a little bit more easy to walk and move your hips, that your legs maybe have a little bit more range of motion within the hip socket. So thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you back here with more tools to help you stay feeling well in your body, mind, and spirit. Until next time.